Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. And very good evening to everybody. This is the recording for our next lecture, specifically for topic 7, Introduction to Persuasive Speech. So among the objectives of this lecture today, insyaAllah, after reading this chapter, after the end of the lecture, you should be able to define persuasion and explain why is it an important subject. Then, explain why meeting ethical obligations can be especially challenging in persuasive speaking, and identify the ethical responsibilities of persuasive speakers, and then clarify the differences between an informative speech and a persuasive speech, and explain why speaking to persuade is especially challenging. Next is, you should be able to explain what it means to say that audiences engage in a mental dialogue with the speaker as they listen to a persuasive speech. We move to the importance of persuasion. So, persuasion is the process of creating, reinforcing, or changing people's beliefs or actions. So, in this particular sense, in our speech, we try to influence others. In terms of we create belief or action, we reinforce something that they already have, but we reinforcing it through our speech, or to the extent that we can change our audience's beliefs or actions about something, or about the topic that we deliver. The ability to speak persuasively is beneficial in everything from personal relationships to career aspirations to civic deliberation. Personal relationships means you could maybe influence others or persuasion others. Among them are your family members, your friends, your colleagues, and so on. So, persuasive speech is so important because you could, apart from giving information, you also can persuade them to believe and then change any particular actions, among them. For example, when some of our family and friends, they don't really take a good care of social distancing in this pandemic, in this COVID-19 pandemic. So, maybe we want to give a short speech about the definition, not definition, the concept of COVID-19, how it is spreaded among the community, and what are the precautious actions that we need to take, alright, in order to hinder ourselves from getting this COVID-19 virus. Okay, so the ability to persuade others is so important because we want them to change. We want them to reinforce their beliefs or actions and so on. And then talking about career aspirations, persuasive speech is so important because when you are having a job later, okay, after you finish your study, if you can persuade others to follow you, or to at least can have a debate with you about something, so it means that you are instigating positive kind of beliefs or action. You are reinforcing the belief or action, and then to a certain extent as well, you can change people's beliefs and actions to be the same like you. Alright, and then to civic deliberation means maybe if you are in a community, you can help the community to believe whatever you deliver, and then they can change their behavior, their actions or their beliefs, okay, to be the same like yours. And then the job of the persuasive speaker is that of an advocate trying to affect the attitudes, beliefs, or actions of listeners. Next, talking about persuading others, it is not an easy task. Okay, we need to take a good care of the ethics. Okay, because we don't want to persuade others negatively. Maybe we use harsh words. Okay, maybe too soft to an extent that people will not listen to us at all. Alright, so there are several ethics that we need to put into our justification when we try to persuade others in our speech. Meeting ethical obligations can be especially challenging when one is speaking to persuade. So persuasive speakers should keep in mind the guidelines for ethical speaking. Number one, they should make sure their goals are ethically sound. So it means that in his or her speech, a public speaker needs to deliver the goals of his or her speech, and it sounds ethical. Number two, a public speaker should study the topic thoroughly before they deliver his or her speech, so that that particular public speaker won't mislead the audience with wrong information, with wrong facts, and so on. And then number three, they should learn about all sides of an issue, okay, in every angle of things related to an issue, okay, and make sure that they get the facts right. Again, it's about the right facts, so that we won't give wrong information, and the changes of the behavior will be far wrong, not like what we intended our audience to be. And then number four, as public speakers, they should be honest in what they say, no matter if it could actually hurt other people. But the thing is, the fact must be correct. The fact must be good. Okay, so it means that we need to be honest in whatever we deliver to our listeners. And then number five, public speakers should guard against subtle forms of dishonesty, such as quoting out of context, portraying a few details as the whole story, and misrepresenting sources. Maksudnya, kita bedak-bedak info ni sikit-sikit je kita bagi kat orang, and we say that this is all. We only take part and partial of a story, and then we say that this is everything. So it is not actually good. It is misleading. It shows your dishonesty and so on. And last one is public speakers should present evidence fairly and accurately. Don't take any wrong evidence, okay, or half-baked evidence, or half-baked story. No, take the evidence to support your points, to support your information fairly and accurately. And then persuasive speakers should keep in mind the power of language and employ it responsibility. This is the way where, this is the place where you can use idioms, you can use proverbs, okay, and so on, to put some additional elements into your persuasion. But make sure that you use it responsibly. Now we move on to the psychology of persuasion. So talking about psychology of persuasion, I will simply deliver about the challenges of persuasion, and then processing persuasive messages, and also targeted audience of our persuasive speech. So we move to the challenges of persuasive speaking. Of all the types of public speaking, persuasion is the most complex and the most challenging. Not like to speak speak for speak to entertain or speak to inform. So it's a bit different with persuasive speech, because this is the most challenging one. Persuasive speeches often deal with controversial topics that involve people's most basic attitudes, values, and beliefs. For example, if it is related to religious things or something that related to cultural things, okay, which had been implemented by a community years back. So when we want to change the behavior, change the belief, change the action of the audience in our persuasive speech, so it will involve people's most basic attitudes, values, and also beliefs. So it is a controversial one. So no matter how skilled a speaker may be, some listeners are so committed to their own ideas that they cannot be persuaded to the speaker's point of view. For this reason, persuasive speakers must enter a speech situation with realistic goals. Don't put too high in terms of your aim. You want to change the behavior or the action of your audience right after your speech. No. For instance, a da'i, if he or she tries to deliver a da'wah message, okay, to a group of people who ignore something related to our religion. For example, maybe you try to go to a group of women who didn't wear hijab. It is not as simple as you think when you want them to wear hijab right after your speech. So don't put high aims, but please put realistic goals. Maybe you go to that bunch of people, that group of women, and you talk nicely about maybe unrelated things. And then you go bit by bit, okay, to talk about aurah, to talk about the beauty of having hijab. And then after that, okay, maybe after some sequence of speeches to them from time to time, maybe then we can impose the ideas of letting them know the hukum, okay, and the obligation of make sure we are not exposing our aurah to others. So this is why, okay, Lucas said that how skilled we are as a public speaker, but some listeners, they are so committed to their own ideas, to their own stand, so that they cannot be simply persuaded by us. No matter if you are a very professional kind of person, very well experienced, this is what we call as one of the challenges in persuasive speaking. Now we move to how listeners process persuasive messages. When processing persuasive messages, listeners engage in a mental give and take with the speaker. Listeners do not sit passively and soak in everything a speaker says. They are not sit there and be like patung. Just listen to you 100%, and then after you finish up everything, and then they will get out from the session. Manicure no dia takkan jadi patung lah kat situ. Okay. And then as they listen, they assess the speaker's credibility, they assess the speaker's delivery style, supporting materials provided by the speaker, and then the language the speakers use, and also the other things. Listeners may argue inside their own words, inside their own minds with the speaker. They might not give a similar understanding with whatever you have shared. Maybe they have any other ideas, but they only play it inside their own minds. Okay, but some of them will also argue with you publicly, openly, and so on. And then effective persuasive speakers regard their speeches as a kind of mental dialogue with the audience. You are having a dialogue verbally, but in the same time, you are having what we call as mental dialogue. So when preparing the speech, the speakers try to put themselves in the place of the audience and imagine how they will respond. So it means that you try to imagine what will be the response of the audience towards the information that you delivered to them. Above all, they try to anticipate audience objections and to answer them in the speech. So it means that before they start their speech, they might have some arisen questions. They predicted some arisen questions. And then they prepare it nicely in terms of the answers, the responses towards those critical questions, okay, that might be delivered by the audience. Now we move on to the target audience. It is often helpful for persuasive speakers to think in terms of reaching their target audience. The target audience is the part of the whole audience a speaker most wants to reach with his or her message and information. For example, you have a group of listeners or audience, maybe 40 of them. But in your speech, you might have several important key points or information which you want to deliver the most towards some of the members of the audience, not the whole. Okay, so it means that this is what we call as the target audience. So in most situations, the target audience consists of uncommitted listeners, listeners who are inclining toward agreement with the speaker, and listeners who disagree with the speaker but who are open to persuasion. There you go. So we have the target audience. The first category is uncommitted listeners. The second one is listeners who are inclining towards agreement with the speaker. And the third category is listeners who disagree with the speaker but who are open to be persuaded by the information delivered by the speaker. Once a speaker knows where the target audience stands, she or he can adapt the speech to fit the values and concerns of the target audience. When you look into your targeted audience, you look into the trend of understanding throughout the whole speech session, questions arisen by the targeted audience, then you can adapt your next information, okay, maybe to fit the values, the background, the demographic background of the audience, and also their concerns, okay, and then you try to make sure that the next information will be easier in terms of the understanding among the audience, and also they can comprehend better because you have identified your target audience correctly or nicely. Okay, so that's the end of our lecture today, okay, for this particular topic, persuasive speech. I hope that you will be benefited by this lecture, insyaAllah. And you know that it is not an easy task for you to deliver a persuasive speech because you cannot force your audience to be persuaded. And you cannot use a method which is too soft. And it cannot influence your audience at all. So you need to have a strategy. Several good strategies like using some idioms, using some anecdotes, using some stories to support your to support your information in your persuasive speech will be good enough to influence your audience to at least maybe they have the idea in their mind and they will change later, not right after the speech session, or they will change their behavior right after your speech session or right after they listened to your speech session. So with that, I concluded with thank you very much, and I'm so sorry for any mistakes that I said. Alright. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh, and thank you. Wallahu alam bissawab.